Hello, hello, hello. Trust you're all well. I'm going to try and see if we can see some comments. Let me know if you can hear me okay. We'll give it a couple of minutes. We've got a few people on already. So just drop a Y if you can hear me okay and see me okay. You're probably on Facebook. You could be on actually live on StreamYard. You could be on YouTube. Brilliant. Jeff, nice, Serge, fantastic. Thank you. Brilliant. Great. Some people can't see your names, but it's fine. Judy, excellent. All right, so you can hear me. I'm so excited, I must admit. Sorry for the last minute. Cheers, Wayne. Sorry for the last minute, Marsha. Fantastic. Yeah, as I say, I'm sorry for lastminute.com. It's just it will change. Okay. It's just I didn't want to let anyone down for tonight. I made a promise, save the date. So I'm gonna honor that. So tonight is more of an introduction. And then next week we get into the meat and potatoes. So it won't be open to everyone next week. It'll be just for this week. But it give me a good chance to say hello to everyone, introduce the topic, introduce the training, just share obviously what's been happening, answer any questions going forward, and prime it ready to get started, ready for next week. So that's where we are. Loads of responses. Thank you so much. It's good to see everyone on the call. And as I said, I'll make the replay available for those who couldn't make it this evening. No problem. If I'm not looking at bang on the cameras because I've got a couple of screens going at the same time. So let's get started. Let's get cracking on. So welcome to the launch of the Trust Administration Workshop. Let me get my infamous chalkboard up so I can do some explanations and drawings and teaching. Give me 2 seconds. Wait for people to join as well while I'm doing that. Okay. Right, I'm going to share my screen and then we'll crack on. Let me find the right setting. Right, so can you see the screen okay? Everyone should see a chalkboard saying Trust Administration Workshop 2024. Is that coming through all right? Brilliant. Okay, so what I want to go through this evening, obviously do the introduction, talk about what's happened in the past and where we're going in the future. Obviously, it's all my opinion. You may not agree with it, which is perfectly fine. And obviously, I'm sure people may have questions, so feel free to post in here if you have any questions. And just talk about what's new and what we're going to be sharing in this particular part of the workshop. Now, what I'm excited about. I mean, I've taken some time off, which I needed. So thank you all for your patience. In that time, I've been doing other things. I'm a lot more knowledgeable about trust than I was before, both on the so-called public side and private side. So you notice I've changed the name slightly, or maybe you haven't noticed. I'm not sure, but I've taken off the term. I don't know if anyone's noticed. Rather than saying private, I've taken that off, and we're talking about trusts. And the reason why I'm doing that is really just to keep explain a lot of things going on. I've seen quite a lot of interesting, was that the right word? Interesting terminology, shall I say, and technologies and commingling and all sorts going on. And really the purpose for this training specifically is to make sure that everyone's got the right information and know where to find the right information. I started off Wealth Guardian Education on that premise that people shouldn't make the same mistakes that I made in the past, and I stand by that. That's why we're doing this training in the first place. And on top of all of that, I don't want to see people falling into mistakes or traps that can be avoided because of poor education, should I say? Yeah, and maybe laziness to find out what's really the truth, specific to trusts and private trust and just trusts in general. All right, so that's where I'm going for 2024. All right, and really, that's why I've called it the School of Excellence, because I'm going to talk about pretty much everything I can regarding trust administration, clarify as much as I can about what a private trust actually is. I sent out a quiz or I asked a question to a lot of people in the group, and I wasn't really happy with the answers I was getting back. Can everyone still, my camera seems to have frozen. Can everyone still hear me okay? Let me see if I can restart the camera. It seems to have frozen for some reason. Can you all hear me? Yeah, I got a yes. All right, let me see what's happening to the camera, why it's misbehaving, but I'll still keep talking. Yeah, not sure what's happening to the camera. I'll leave that out for now, but let's just crack on teaching. Just double check this one system here. Right, we'll do it like that. Right, just one more check. Everyone can still definitely hear me, even though you can't see me. You can definitely hear me. Just one more yes from the other people. Just let me know we're on the right lines. Perfect. Okay, cool. So, so let's crack on. Change my pen color, and then we're good. Right. So we talk about trust administration. I want to address what exactly is a private trust. I've done a course on it called Private Trust Exposed, which I highly recommend people check that out. But I'm going to go in just to define what a private trust is, as far as I've always taught it. Okay. And can anyone maybe give it a try? Anyone want to give it a go? What is the definition of a private trust? I'll tell you what it's not. In terms of like living in the private, quote unquote. Well, what does that mean? Um, I forgot the other terminology that's coming up, but we need to understand exactly what when I say the word private here, what does that mean? And if your questions, how do you confirm that? So you're not railroaded or laughed at or looked at as being speaking French. Okay. Ultimately, we operate in a separate jurisdiction. Okay. What jurisdiction does the realm of trust actually originate from? Equity jurisdiction. Fantastic. Okay. So uh, that's it. So it's the exclusive, inherent jurisdiction called equity. And if you operate in that realm, which you can choose to, it's outside of the public, and therefore I define as private. And that's always been the case since day one, since I started this. So any other definition won't make sense. Okay, it has to be so, because if you're going to court, you're speaking to anyone, they won't recognize anything else except another law form which is recognized, which is equity. Yeah, and so if we start using other definitions, or other people are making up other definitions, and we're on the wrong path all from day one, effectively. Okay, so this is the definition that I use, and I've always used. My mentors have always used. There's never been any change, and there won't be any change. Okay, and trusts always reside in that jurisdiction called equity. All right, so that's the first thing that I'm going to be relying on. I said I've done another course that goes into in a lot more detail. I've broken it down, shown you the statutes, shown you the law form around it, and I made it very, very clear what is a private trust. So private trust exposed is the name of the course, and we are focusing on the equity jurisdiction. So that's what we're going to look at on one side of the coin. So effectively what we have here is we're going to ask the question and revisit the question, which we always do in this training for private trust administration or trust administration, is what is a trust. We're going to break that down, but in this instance, we're going to do it slightly different. We're going to look at it from the private side of view, which is historically what we've always done. Okay, and I'm also going to be introducing it from the statutory or public side. Okay, so that's new, and we're introducing that into this training. Okay, going forward, so you can see the differences between the two. There isn't really a major difference, but you need to understand what is going on, and then allow you, because you have all the information, make informed decisions and choices of how you want to carry on your affairs once you understand what the roles are and why they're different and how they can be utilized. I've always classed this side as the enemy, as the cardinal sin. Like, you don't go over there. It's absolutely diabolical. You're crazy to go over there. Always had that, has always been my mindset. Okay, until probably the last couple of years, and I want to explain why, and the differences and what you need to look out for and the nuances that you need to look out for, because it's important, and show you and prove to you why it's important for you to know both sides. There's a lot of noise out there about the statutory side of things, and people get themselves in trouble. The reason why am I making it a big deal now? Why is it a big deal? Because people's lives and livelihoods and wealth and hard work, which is ultimately what we're trying to protect in the first place, is at jeopardy if we don't know what we're doing. And it would really pain me to see people lose assets, or make poor choices because of misinformation, or lack of clarity, and not going out to get the right information themselves. So hence why I'm doing this version of the training. I think it's super important that we understand both sides. I'm not going to go into it in too much depth, but enough for you to realize, okay, there is choice and there are things that need to be done in order to protect yourselves if you're going to start utilizing the trusts. So that's one thing that we're going to make really clear and spend a bit of time on in the trainings going forward. All right. The next side of things that we're going to look at, and there's any questions on this before I move forward, by the way, or any comments? Cool. All right. So I've got one thing I'm doing, because I've called it a school of excellence, is we're really going to start practicing to get our answers right. So we're going to be doing quizzes and maybe even exams. I'm going to include that in the training. Okay. I've got some new books to recommend, which I want to roll out. Okay, which I think is really going to be helpful to your understanding and knowledge. So we've got books or book list. Doesn't negate the ones that we've already mentioned, but these ones are really respect quite a lot. As I said, talk about new concepts that might be newer to you, and explain them, as well as we always do, go through case law. Oops, let me just rub that out. It'll be easier. And examples to make it very practical and pragmatic, so you can see what's going on. All right. One thing that is used to baffle me, and I was ignorant about, is we talked about. I don't know if anyone remembers, who's already existing members of Wealth Guardian, constitution of a trust. Anyone remember what that means? Just out of interest, what does it mean to constitute a trust? I'll give it a couple of seconds when there's a slight delay. I'll take it by your silence then. All right. So, ways in which a trust is set up or established, and effectively, depending on the type of asset, affects how a trust is set up. And one of the assets that can be quite confusing and also very valuable to people is land. Okay, and so we're going to look at that, as well as other property like chattels, which we've always done. Okay, it was mainly chattels and land. Land, we had a separate course called the Asset Protection Workshop, which we're going to do an updated version this year. But in terms of constituting land, I'm going to talk about that in a relative detail, because there's some concepts that people just need to understand, which was never really made very clear in the books, but makes much more sense now, as my eyes of understanding have been opened. This is really important because it's going to affect a lot of people, especially if you have homes, etc. How is it seen? How is it perceived? And what you're going to do. We're also going to look at different types of trusts. Yeah, I only delved in, obviously, when we're operating in the private realm, there's only one type of trust to look at, which I guess in the public context was called a simple trust. I won't call it a bare trust because that denotes it's in the public, but a simple trust is just a trust and it does its job. But there are other types of trusts, and we're going to look at that and introduce that. Some of it may confuse you. Some of it may think, well, Richard, you used to be anti this and anti that. And I'm like, well, yeah, that was definitely the case. And here's why. So we're going to really interrogate a lot of the material, in terms of what's out there now, why it's what's pros, what's cons, why it's utilized. Not in too much depth, because I teach it in more depth in other types of workshops, but I'm introducing it from a trust administration purpose. So this is really going to be the bulk of the trust administration workshop going forward, as well as all the other things that we've talked about in the past, in terms of the trustee's role, the beneficiary's role, setting the trust up, how it's established, the relevant paperwork, reviewing that, and how that's going to be perceived and looked at, and allow you then to make a choice of how you want to deal with certain assets moving forward, and being able to pick and choose your battles. Okay, and pick and choose when to use a private trust or not. The trustee is the most important role in a trust. And the biggest thing about a trustee is that they need to have knowledge. And the biggest challenge, especially in the private area, is that there's a lot of people that don't have a lot of this knowledge in the area of trusts. And so it leads to people getting into serious trouble without the right information or knowledge or mindset. And so this is where I want to try to eliminate or reduce this confusion as much as possible. Okay. So a few comments are popping up here. Um, yeah, the art of passing the buck, good book, but we got one thing I'll be very careful about. I mean, it talks about the concept of trust, which is important. But American trusts are actually very different to the UK side of things, so just be very careful around that. Is everything is classified as property? Yeah, but then there's different types, and we're going to go through that. Because remember, in the previous courses we talked about different types of relationships, as well as trusts, and there's also going to be different types of property, and how it's treated. Okay, and some of the rules, and also a lot of laws interact. What do I mean by that? So, for example, when you set up a trust which operates in equity, can anyone tell me any other law forms, or that's not the right word, any other I guess it would be law forms that reside under the equity jurisdiction? Anyone aware? All right. So, for example, bankruptcy or insolvency, shall we say, is under the equity jurisdiction. Family law is under the equity jurisdiction. There are elements of what we call private law that comes under equity jurisdiction. Revenue law, believe it or not, crosses over between equity and public statute. So we're going to go through a lot of this. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is, for example, under insolvency, there's something called, you've probably heard about it, defrauding creditors. And they use that to get behind a trust if you don't know the rules. Under family law, let's say divorce, marriage is a settlement, marriage is a trust. And they use family law to get behind a trust. So there's a lot of crossover of different law forms under the equity jurisdiction, because obviously trust resides under equity jurisdiction as well, that we need to kind of, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there is a crossover, and they can use these against you if you don't know what's going on. So we're going to kind of maybe introduce and sow some seeds around that as well, just to keep your eyes of understanding wide open. So there's a lot of nuances around trust which I wasn't aware of before, and I'm certainly definitely aware of now. And I just want to share those to keep our eyes of understanding wide open. Anyone who's new to my way of teaching, one of my mentors was a guy called Christian Waters, and he came up with the concept of NOI/SOI, which stands for Notice of Interest, Statement of Interest, and it's used against us all the time. Maybe we just don't really realize it. So another way of looking at it is, I'm sure some of the members on here would know, accusation and proof. And we use this as a concept of teaching in Wealth Guardian. So if you're new to Wealth Guardian, one thing that you'll find that we do differently is that I don't make blanket statements. Okay, and I allow every member, we call it a family, I guess, but every member to challenge me if I ever make a statement that's blanket and I don't back it up, either in writing or with proof. And I do that specifically to enable, because I know I have in the past, especially when I was learning, getting beaten up because people make blanket statements which sound absolutely wonderful, almost divine, but you can't back it up, and then we get challenged, and all we do is define the statement by the statement itself. You can't actually back it up, and we wonder why we get ourselves in trouble, get beaten up in courts or whatever, because we're not defining what we're saying and don't have a proof to back up what we're saying. So everything that we do in Wealth Guardian, and I guess why it's been, why people enjoy the teaching, is that everything that we teach is backed up. So we have this concept of an accusation. So if I make a claim or make a statement, everyone has a right to say, well, what's your SOI? What's your proof? Because if you go to court and make a statement, guaranteed, well, where's the evidence? And he who makes a claim must prove. So if that's strange to you, you're going to have to get used to that, because that's how we do it in Wealth Guardian Education. All right. Really important that we understand that concept. So pretty much everything that will come out of my mouth will be taught from a book or in black and white or a statute or something to back up the claims. And I do that so that you can read the books yourself and stand on every word that is being taught, so you can stand on it yourself. That's the whole point of the teaching. It's no point me just making bold claims. It sounds really great, but then if you challenge, you don't know what to say or how to back it up. Would anyone agree or disagree with that point? Yeah, I know there's a slight delay, so it's fair enough. Yeah, so definitely, Marshall, there's no personality in a trust. There's no legal, in this country, trusts do not have a legal identity. So the trustees are the ones that represent the trust. You may have to like sign up with depending on if you're in a group or if you're on a page, if you're going to see the comments or not. So I apologize if you can't see all the comments, but definitely on the replay you might be able to do so. And for data protection, I think you may have to register with StreamYards so that they can allow you to see the comments and the names. I won't be teaching on this platform next week. It's just, this is the easiest way to get through to everyone really quickly. All right, so David asks, is that this is how you work in the membership? Exactly. So you agree? Yep. So you got maximum of law. Relief and not remedy. Yep. Relief under equity. Subrogation, maxims, contracts. Yep. So we're going to go through the free certainties. We're going to go through all of that. We start from the very beginning, and we just build it up layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. So why this is, of course, is going to be different to the rest, because I'm introducing the statutory side. We're going to eliminate the taboos that may exist around the statutory side, because to a lot of people it's like I'm swearing until they get clarity. So we define privacy, we define confidentiality. We're going to have to talk about trust registration, because it's a thing now. And when is it supposed to be done? Why is it supposed to be done? Is it less private if it's registered? Does registration mean you're giving it away? We need to go through all that, have that conversation. It needs to be discussed. All right. Because mindsets have changed. Okay. So we need to get clarity of understanding to make sure we're not making unnecessary mistakes moving forward, and ultimately challenge any material that we've been taught, and stand on it in one way, shape, or form, either via a book, case law, etc., to show yourself as a equipped practitioner of trusts. Whether you intend to use one or not is another story, but at least, again, my goal is to stop anyone from making unnecessary mistakes that could definitely be avoided with information and with clarity. And that's really the focus of this training. Okay. Again, apologies if you're not seeing the comments. Okay. Business trusts. Yes, I don't know what a ministry trust is. I've never heard of a ministry trust before. There might be some kind of a what we call public trust or charitable trusts, potentially. I don't know about that. So yeah, so that's basically really where we're going with this, with the new 2024 class. And then in terms of the School of Excellence, those well, I'm going to be looking to do a part 3, maybe a part 4 for the for the asset protection workshop, which is part of the advanced training, which is all on the statutory side. We're going a lot more detail for those who are interested in learning. Really, it's about originally the training was set up to become to help people become professional trustees, and so that's still the mandate. And there's a cohort 2, so that'll be starting, and I'll let people know when that starts. Um, so yeah, so that's mainly where we are. So what I will do is, obviously all existing members have access to the training, so that starts next week, and an email will go out. If you're on YouTube or Facebook and you're not a member yet, then I'll present information of how to get involved if you're interested in joining the training starting officially next week. This is this is the official launch, which I said I'm very keen to make sure that I turned up, and I mean what I'm saying. We're going to do weekly training. But we get into the meat and potatoes starting from next week, and I'll be sending that information on what you need to do, the links, the replays, access to the membership, etc., etc. That'll be explained in due course. So that's really where we're going with this. So if there's any questions, I'll definitely take them now. Don't know anything about Steve McRae, unfortunately. I know he was around a few years ago, but I'm not sure about now. One thing you'll find about me, I just keep my blinkers on. I don't really focus on anybody else. Again, is it Seni? Any statement that's made, I just like to see a backup of it. So when people make a comment of what it does, I just need to see a backup of it. What does that mean? Where is that based? Where's the writing or the confirmation of those statements? Okay, so that's basically where we are from that. So, any other questions? And the reason why I'm quite tough on that, because if I was in court, I can't say check out X or Y. I'd have to read it out. I'd have to, or have it in writing for the judge to read, literally. So if I can't explain it, I can't defend it. And I'm hard on myself and I'm hard on others. In the training, that's definitely the way we'll go. And it's important. It really is. Yeah. So I'm not trying to come across as being rude. As far from it. Just establishing, I guess the culture of how we do things at Wealth Guardian. So no one's going to be offended going forward. All right. So this is being recorded. So hopefully the replay will be a lot better quality than if people are having challenges with the sound. Just going to give it a few more minutes. Yeah, Robin is definitely going to be available. The replay will be. So if you're on YouTube or Facebook, the replay will be automatic. Anyone logged in via Wealth Guardian, I'll email it out to everyone so they can have access to it. So the reason why I removed private and just called it trust, because I'm going to be talking about trusts per se, as opposed to just private trusts. That's why I removed the private from the title. Yeah. So any of the training that we do is recorded. It's more like a Netflix. You can log back in when you're ready and watch it when you need to. I know everyone doesn't have the same availability, but I know people do watch and sometimes even binge watch the trainings for their learning. So that's completely understandable. So definitely, as much as possible, everything's recorded and stored in the membership. Or if you buy it as a course, you have access to the course, whichever option. The membership is no longer available to new people, if that makes any sense. So it's just existing members who have access to the membership. the business model's changed now. So it's just you just access the course and you have access to that course, and that's it going forward, unless you're an existing member of Wealth Guardian. No problem, Senny. It's all good. All right. So, guys, ladies, I'm going to wrap up. I know it's getting late. Everyone's got early starts tomorrow, I'm sure. As I said, the replays will be made available. Those who are wanting to get on board, I will definitely get it out to you in one way, shape, or form by the Facebook group. Or if you are signed up on the wait list, you'll get information of how to get access to the training. Obviously, existing members, your existing members, nothing to worry about. You jump on the training once it's launched. I will send the links as to what links we're going to be utilizing. So there's no kind of confusion about that going forward. All right. Where exactly do we access the course next week? I will send an email out to everyone, Julie, on how to access the training once we get started. Yeah, ultimately it will be if you're an existing member, it will appear in the membership. And in terms of joining live, I'll send an email out with a link to join live. And if you're not a member, I'll give you information of how to become or get access to the training. All right. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience and great questions coming through. Angela, will I receive a link via email for your course? Yep, I'll send it out via email if you're on a list. I'll put it in a Facebook group if you're also. If you still haven't received anything from me, then and you got my email, then drop me an email directly. If you don't have my email, I'll put it on here just very quickly. Please excuse my doctor's handwriting. It's admin, ADMIN, at WGEREVAMPED, revamped.com. All right. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening, and I will definitely be in touch. And thank you for your patience once again. Cheers, everybody.